Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today for this CX webinar. Thank you to everybody that's registered and welcome to guests who are joining from PSMG as well. It's great to have you with us. We thought it would be really helpful to talk today about CX. It is rising on the agenda. People are talking to us about it more and more. So hence we thought putting this event on might be helpful to people. So just firstly, a bit about us. So we are quite well known for delivering client listening programs and helping firms gather insight that way. But we also help firms to reflect on what the data is telling them and to support them to act on the insight and therefore strengthen client relationships. So we're speaking to more and more firms, and they either feel that they have spent the last few years focusing a lot internally, and now they feel that they need to focus externally on their clients, or we're talking to firms who've got quite well-established client listening programs, but they've gathered a lot of insight, but they actually don't really know what to do with it. And both of those things tell us that client listening is becoming client experience is becoming more important. So just a bit about me. I've been working with and in professional services firms for the last 20 years. I understand the challenges you face. I've sat where you sat. I started off at Deloitte in an in-house marketing role, and then I moved to BDO, where I was responsible for their exceptional client service agenda, which included their client listening program. And on the right is actually a snippet of an internal publication from 2013, where I was fresh-faced, pre-kids, and talking about the importance of listening to clients, acting upon what they were telling us. So this is something that I've been talking about for quite a long time. So today we're going to look at why firms are prioritizing CX. We're going to look at where the blind spots might be, either to delivering an excellent experience or to moving programs forward. Then we'll look at what makes a great experience. And although there'll be an opportunity for Q&A at the end, if you've got a burning question as we go through, then please feel free to take yourself off mute and ask it. So I think most of the people who are here on this call today sit in marketing. And so a number of you might be familiar already with this concept of the HubSpot flywheel. It's a great demonstration that shows the importance of a focus on clients. So what used to happen is that prospects would go through our marketing and sales funnel, they'd pop out at the end, but then they'd largely be forgotten about as clients, because then the focus was always on filling the top of the hopper. But nowadays, the firms that place their clients at the center of everything they do are rewarded with a high degree of loyalty and strong advocates. And actually, research from McKinsey shows that CX leaders outperform their peers on revenue growth. So a focus on CX not only leads to growth with current clients, but also it helps you to attract new clients. They'll come to you via recommendations from happy clients, reduce churn and a lower cost to serve, and that helps to improve profitability, and also a decrease in complaints. And this is something that is coming up as quite prominent at the moment. So the SRA recently reported an increase in first-line complaints, and both the SRA and the Legal Ombudsman are looking at how firms handle complaints. So looking at CX can help your firm to keep compliant as well as competitive. Again, a number of you might have seen this slide. This is from the research from PM Forum and Meridian West, which was launched earlier this year. And this shows that of the people who were asked who took part in the Marketing Leaders Benchmark survey, the top priority for professional services, marketing and BD leaders was making improvements to the client service or client experience. In terms of why it's important, customer demands are changing, as is the way that people share information and receive information. So people's expectations are rising. They're increasingly comparing experiences with the likes of Amazon. And although you're delivering a service rather than a product, the hallmarks of what people are looking for, convenience, responsiveness, being easy to deal with, a great post-purchase client service, they all translate across whatever it is that we're buying. Firms want to achieve trusted advisor status with their clients. And in a professional services context, quite often professionals think that trust is built by winning awards or highlighting academic achievements or technical competence, or by talking about the number of offices you have. But actually, what trust is actually driven by emotion. So if we have a look at this trust equation, so you've got reliability, which is in our context relates to consistency, credibility, so the knowledge, intimacy, which is the safety in another person, and you add those together and divide by self-orientation, and that looks at the is the person that I'm dealing with interested in me, or are they interested in themselves? And the more that somebody is interested in me as a client, then the higher this trust score will be. And that's why this approach is so important. And whether your clients are individuals or whether they're businesses, the decision to buy is human-centered still, and it's driven by emotion. So let's look at that a little bit more. So some of you might have seen the Disney Pixar film Inside Out, and that's about a teenage girl who is trying to navigate her emotions through becoming a teenager. So I thought we'd have a look at the characters there, just for a bit of fun, to bring this to life a bit more. So CX is about how you make your clients feel. And there's when I was working at BDO, we used to call it client service, and now it's more known as client experience. And experience is all about how you make people feel. It's all about emotion. And emotions can either be the driving force behind instructing an advisor, or in some cases, they can be emotions that clients feel as a result of using your firm. And some of these are great and some of them are less desirable. So if we start with joy, clearly you want your clients to feel joy. You want them to feel good about working with you, that it's been the right decision, that they're feeling looked after. But if we have a look at what else might be at play, so we've got sadness. And sometimes people are engaging professional services firms from a place of sadness, due to a bereavement or due to the failure of a business. And empathy there among our professionals is really important and plays into the experience that they receive. Similarly with anxiety and fear. So some clients are not sophisticated buyers of professional services, so they need a lot of hand holding. They might be quite anxious about engaging a lawyer or an accountant. So they might need a bit of hand holding through the process, and feel anxious about working with you. Or they might feel fearful about the outcome of a dispute, and people's livelihoods can be at stake. And the other thing that can happen is with professionals is if somebody is working on, for example, an insolvency, or it's the first time that they've run a redundancy program, they might also be feeling quite anxious and fearful, and they'll be looking for your advisors to support them through that process. So anger, this tends to largely come about through communication issues. So not being responsive enough, not proactively keeping clients in touch with what's going on, not telling clients about changes to teams or absences within the team. Other things that really annoy clients, things like scope creep, changes to fees, or lengthy and commercial advice. And that leads on to my final emotion, which is embarrassment. So clients want you to make them look good. They want you to provide advice that they can top and tail and pass to their internal stakeholders. And I've recently had a number of conversations in client listening interviews where clients have actually had to defend that the firm that they're using to internal stakeholders due to errors or due to a lack of decisive action, and that's not really a great place to be. So if we look at some of the blind spots that we see around client experience in firms, and the first one is around client journey. So a lot of firms often talk about their client journey, and they're really focused on inquiries and onboarding and measuring what's happening at those two stages. But obviously, your journey has a lot more elements to that. So how are you tracking what's happening at each journey? Do you set yourselves up for success? So as well as the compliance paperwork that's involved in getting clients to work with you, how is the onboarding experience? Do they know what's required from their side and what to expect from you during your work together? Then enduring relationships are made or broken during the delivery phase. So that's where feedback comes into play really well here. And often firms will wait until a matter is completed before they're asking for feedback, but actually doing it during a delivery phase, or if you're working with a really long-term client, can be really powerful and help you to identify and to nip any issues in the bud if there are any for the client. It also helps around issue resolution, conflict resolution, having difficult conversations. And that's really important internally, that you create a culture of psychological safety so that professionals feel, especially those that are more junior or less experienced, that if something happens or something hasn't gone quite right, they feel able to raise it and speak up rather than let issues escalate. And then also don't forget about the in-between times as well. So clients, if you're working on more transactional clients, private clients, for example, it's important to keep front of mind, because people are fickle. And if somebody, they buy a house, but then the next time they might need advice, if somebody else is bombarding them and in their face, then actually they will potentially go to that firm rather than come back to you. And also in terms of corporate clients, we get feedback which tells us that clients say to us, I wish the firm were better at keeping in touch in between matters, because they can smell it a mile off when they don't hear from a firm, a matter completes, a piece of work finishes, and they don't hear from the firm until they get a sniff of some new work. So keeping that relationship going, even when there's no work to be had, is really important and is all part of your client experience. So next up is client journeys. So we find that quite often firms overcomplicate their journeys. Do you have a client journey map? What does it look like? Does it look like this? Is it really complex? Is it understood by your professionals? And if you don't have one, just think about the steps that your clients go through. So it might not include all of the steps that I put on that previous graphic, but it might be different for different types of clients, and that's fine. But just have a look and think about the channels that people are using. So personal inquiries tend to come through websites or info emails. but business clients tend to come straight through to partners via recommendations. So what's happening at that point? Have you got a view of the journey from the partner's inbox to what happens next? Is that an easy and seamless and timely process for clients? Engage your front-facing teams in mapping and identifying pain points for clients. They might have their own views on potential points of friction that you can iron out, but also make sure that you're framing those discussions so that they're understood. So quite often, law and accountancy is full of jargon, but so can marketing be. So if you're talking to a professional about client personas, do they actually understand what that is? So you need to bring people on that journey with you. And I would just really urge you to keep things simple. If your journey map feels overcomplicated to you, it probably feels overcomplicated to clients as well. So the next one is about data. So as I said earlier, quite a lot of firms are telling us that they're really happy, they've got a great client listening program, they've got great engagement, but they just don't know what to do with the data. So what you need to do is get organized. So what happens to the insight once it's gathered? Who can view it? Are you sharing intelligence more widely, or is it really held quite tightly within account teams? Only sharing it with relationship partners might not mean that appropriate action is taking. And siloed data can make it difficult to spot themes and identify opportunities to improve. So there are a number of ways to consolidate. There are a number of tools on the market. Paul is on the call from My Customer Lens. That's one of those such tools where data from across all of your client listening channels can be put in one place, consolidated. It can help you analyze and spot themes rather than having to go in and manually go through all of the data yourselves. Other ways to do it, if you don't, I know there are some smaller firms on here, if you don't quite have the budget to invest in a sophisticated system, you can use Microsoft tools such as Power BI, or even off-the-shelf things. So one of my clients, which is a small management consultancy firm, use monday.com, and they have created a board, a kind of a client listening board, and it's got all of the interviews on. But when we upload the interview notes, it has an element of AI built in. So it will pull together the NPS score from all of the interviews, and it will pull together highlights of all the transcripts, and it will pull out themes as well. So there are varying things that you can use here depending on your budget and resource. We're going to be actually looking at some of those tools in our next community call, which is next week. So if you'd like to come along to that as a guest, then please get in contact with me afterwards, and we will make sure that you get an invite to that. It's also helpful. AI is brilliant, but we feel quite strongly that a human lens is still really important, and it is actually quite interesting from a geeky data point of view to look at your own data yourself. And what we tend to find is data falls into three categories. So things that clients talk about tend to either be related to processes, to systems, or to behaviors. But underpinning all of those are communication, and communication can make or break any of those three. Then when the need to act arises, how are you recording the actions that need to take place, and how are you tracking progress of the action taken and the outcome? So quite often firms will go and either we or they will interview a client, and the client will make some suggestions or raise some issues. How do you know what's happening as a result of that? I would just like ask you to reflect on that. How do you know what action is being taken and what the impact and the outcome has been? And then how are you closing the loop with clients? So are you going back to clients and telling them what's happening? I always say to firms, I think it's a great idea, at the end of the year, or at some point, to say, to talk about what your clients, anonymously, obviously, but talk about what clients have said. Our clients told us this is what they love about us, this is what they didn't like about us, and this is what we've done about it. And that just shows real integrity, and it shows that you take your client listening seriously. So another blind spot is not actually listening enough. So this again is from the PM Forum and Meridian West Research. And although the top priority for respondents was to make improvements to their clients' experience, a really small number, so less than 10%, are confident that they're actually doing enough to listen to clients, to check in on that service and experience. So in terms of what not listening enough looks like, there's obviously quantity, so not asking enough clients in terms of numbers, but then there's also quality. So not listening to clients or seeking the views of clients who might not be happy. It's very easy to go out and partners will cherry pick the clients that they know are going to say amazing things. But that gives you a really skewed view of what's going on. So it's really important to have that mix, to have a real rich mix of clients that are spoken to about their experiences. Not asking the right people is also something that we come across as well. So sometimes clients will ask quite junior people to speak with us, but actually they don't necessarily have a full view of the experience, and they might not have been involved right across the piece, or they might only have very limited or very narrow experiences with the firms. So you need to be speaking to, in those cases, either a number of people from across the client, or somebody who's got a senior or broad enough view of the whole relationship. And then relying mostly on one listening method is another blind spot. So if you're only doing interviews, yes, you're getting a lot of rich insight, but you might not be getting enough hard data. If you're only doing surveys, you can get loads for charts and graphs, but then you're not getting that rich insight. So mixing things up is always really helpful, and will help you to get a better view of how people are feeling about their experience. Expectations management is also something where we see firms falling short. So setting out what's expected, what clients can expect from you, but what's expected from your professionals is also a great way of embedding the importance of client experience. Lots of firms have a client charter on their website. It's kind of hidden somewhere. That needs to be really made clear to clients. It needs to be included in the engagement letter with them, so that they know at all times what they can expect from working with you. It needs to be communicated to your teams, obviously. They're a huge part of delivering this. So your teams need to understand what your clients are expecting. Otherwise, you're going to have a disconnect. And depending on the size of the firm and your offering, your client charter and these expectations will need to be flexed accordingly. People need to feel empowered to adapt according to their client needs. But having an overall idea or overall vision for the experience that you want to deliver for all clients is a good idea. So at BDO, our strapline at this time when I was there was exceptional client service delivered by empowered people. So meaning clients should expect a consistently high level of service delivered by accountants who have the autonomy to flex according to their needs. So having this overall vision is important, because one of the downfalls I often hear about firms is inconsistency. So clients will sometimes tell us that they love working with one area of the firm, but they don't get such a great service or have a great experience from colleagues in another team. And that not only leads to a headache for the client, who might need to actually go somewhere else for advice in the particular area where they are not getting a great service from the firm, but it's also a real missed opportunity for the firm, could lead to potential lost revenue and less sticky clients. So once you've got your client charter or service standards in place, you just need to test it through client listening and make any necessary tweaks and adjustments. And having that client first mindset is something that is actually more inherent in some people than others. So in terms of making CX as part of your recruitment, your training, your induction is really important. So do your teams need training in CX in terms of how to have difficult conversations with clients, how to deal with clients who might be less than happy? Do they know how to develop and foster strong relationships with clients? Are people told when they join the firm about the firm's approach to client experience and what that means to them and their role in delivering that? Do you solely recruit for technical skills, or are you looking for people that have got those client facing or client interaction skills too? So I was at one of the it was the Devon and Somerset Law Society conference about with some managing partners, and one of the managing partners was telling me that they when they're looking for people to join the firm and they go to job fairs, quite often, keen young people will come up and they'll say, what grades do I need, what do I need to do, what do I need to achieve, grade wise to join your firm, what are you looking for? But actually what she is looking for and what she is telling people is that yes, you obviously need to have a certain level of intellect and a base level of certain grades, but what she was really looking for was she wanted people that have had a front facing job. She wanted people who have been a waiter or a waitress or a bar person or a lifeguard, or had to deal with the public and knew how to have a conversation with people. That was really important to her. So I'd encourage you to think about that too. Internal disconnect is something that we also see. So are you connecting the dots? Where else in the firm does data about your client experience, where else does that lie? Quite often there's a disconnect between complaints and client experience. So are you learning from the complaints that come into your risk and compliance teams? Obviously, they don't need to share the detail, but if they are seeing complaints about the same thing over and over again, are they sharing that with you so that you can then turn that into learnings for your overall client experience? And if not, why are they not doing that? If they're making things anonymous, you're not asking them to share detail, but they should really be sharing where the firm is falling down so that you can make those necessary improvements. And then do you have cross-functional teams? So a lot of firms that we do speak to are involving IT. Some firms have innovation teams, and they're looking at client experience as multidisciplinary teams, which is great. So although you need to be the guardians of your CX program, bringing in other colleagues is a great way to deliver and to get other views. So looking at what makes a great client experience, overall, it should be seamless and frictionless. So you need to tailor your experience to client sophistication and need. So a first-time home buyer has very different needs to a seasoned GC. A small business needing bookkeeping support is clearly very different from the needs of a finance director or the MD of a large company. So on the face of it, many firms are at one end of the spectrum or the other in terms of the size of the clients that they deal with. but not always. So there's quite a lot of merger and consolidation going on in the market. So actually the firm that you sit in might soon be responsible for taking on, merging with a much smaller firm, and therefore you need to look at things through a different lens. So be proactive and transparent. That's really crucial to excellent CX, and that builds that all important trust. Look at ways to better manage engagement. So this is, again, something that comes up quite a lot is firms get annoyed when people aren't keeping projects or engagements on track. But that doesn't always play into the strengths of your professionals. So where do those skills lie? Do you have a really brilliantly organised PA or a paralegal who is super organised, who can make sure that things are staying on track, and make sure that the right people from across your firm are involved at the right time? So many firms still don't have key account management programs in place, or quite a few firms are saying to Claire and I, actually, we used to have a key account management program in place, but it's kind of gone by the wayside, and not really sure why that is, but it seems to be something that had kind of gone out of favor and is now coming back in again. But taking a holistic view of your clients and those that you want to grow, those that you want to manage, those that you want to defend, benefits both the firm and the client. So to kind of bring this to life a bit, when I worked at Deloitte, which was many years ago, and I don't know if they still do this now, but they had an approach where a fee earner was appointed a role in key clients, and they were called the business account manager. And they were released from chargeable work, and they worked alongside the lead partner for key client relationships to manage and grow the account. So they sat in a different service line to the lead partner, and they brought in the right teams at the right time to best serve the needs of the client. And they knew everything that was going on at the client. They were really close to them. They knew the moves. They knew when people were moving teams, or what was going on. And that was a really effective way of having somebody whose job it was to make sure that you were delivering the best of the firm to the client when they needed it. And that really helped with client experience. Value add is also really important to clients. So when we speak to clients, things that are still really important to them: training, secondments, horizon scanning, exclusive events. They are all expected of firms who are billing, thousands, hundreds and thousands of pounds to clients. So I've talked about expectations already, but I'm going to mention it again. It's really important that everybody is clear on what's expected of them in terms of delivering client experience. Let clients know what to expect. Stick to your promises. Communicate as early as possible if something isn't going according to plan and you need to deviate. Clients are usually okay with that as long as they know and it's communicated early enough. And then close the loop. So close the loop when you do listen to clients, or when they give you unsolicited feedback. So insight without action is worthless. And closing that loop shows that you've truly listened and that you value the clients beyond their contribution to their bottom line. So in terms of what you might do differently, I've rattled through a lot here, and we'll have time to discuss. But from our time together today, think about what you might do differently. So consider those emotions. How do you want your clients to feel, and how will you achieve that? Look at every step of your client journey and what's happening at each step. Review and simplify your client journey. Organize your data. What is it telling you about your systems, your processes, and your behaviors, and what needs to be tweaked? Record and track your actions. Listen more and listen bravely. Make expectations clear to clients and teams, and connect internally. So I hope that's been a useful session and has left you with some ideas for what you could do next or differently within your firm. I'm going to stop sharing and then we can get into some Q&A. So everybody there? Great. Okay, perfect. Right. Sorry again about the disruption at the beginning, but hope that was helpful. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions?